Welcome, guys, to another awesome stream of After Dark live scary ghost stories here on HSFL Paranormal. Hope you guys are having a fantastic evening so far. Trying to get this ready here. Hey, Tammy Burgess Rock FAMZ in the house. Hey, Colleen Paranormal. Hey, what's going on? Julie Cole, how's it going? Welcome in, everybody. I'm just starting here. Hey, Paige, how's it going? I'm doing fantastic, Julie. How are you? So we're just getting ready here, guys. Trying to build the suspense for an awesome stream here. Let's hopefully get some different kinds of music through here. Hopefully we can find some more. I don't know if it's going to be possible. No, I'm not going to do that. That's not the right song for this. But yeah, guys, this is going to be pretty awesome. I'm just waiting for some people to get here. Julie Cole just hanging out. That's awesome. Hey, what's up, Dolphin Lover 691? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Greg Man, how's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Guys, we are going to be doing After Dark live scary ghost stories tonight, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Always a great stream. It's always good to spend time with everybody. Hey, Melanie Harris, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. And just waiting for some more people to join up here. And so just kind of setting the tone. Oh, thank you, Julie. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Sharpshooter. Appreciate it, bro. Just gonna share this out myself. Hey, thank you so much, Tammy. I really appreciate it. Hey, what's going on? How you doing, Gina? Jeanette Moore, Miss Monty P. Thank you guys so much for sharing this. We got 14 people in the house so far, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so guess who had back surgery? Oh, that's great. I'm glad James got his surgery done. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be getting started here momentarily, just trying to share this out as quickly as I can. Okay, tweet was sent out, so thank you guys. Just trying to get everything all set up here, guys, so we can get this ball rolling. Ready for an awesome stream? Hey, thank you so much, Julie Cole. I really appreciate it. Haunted by Haunted is in the house. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Alrighty, you guys. Scary ghost stories. Love it. Just like the golden days, right? Just like the old days. Kind of the stream that got my channel started, really. I do appreciate everybody who is supporting me through this venture. You get the pop-out chat going on here. All right, guys. How's everybody doing tonight? And thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you share this out on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Join me on Facebook and on Twitter at HSFL Paranormal, guys. Cool. Be right back in 10 minutes. Perfect. All right, guys. So that's the suspenseful, creepy music. Hey, DF Network, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. All right, guys. Let's see. So we got a whole plethora of different stories here. We could do true scary stories. We could do horror stories, urban legends, stuff about monsters. So many different subjects, so many different stories. We could definitely dive deep into these. All right, you guys, we have currently, it's not showing me now. We currently have 10 people watching. I know we can share this out and get some more people in here. I did just message a lot of different people, so hopefully. And I know there's a lot of people live right now, so hopefully some more people join up. We're only 10 minutes into this, so I appreciate it. Tell me ghost stories with the flashlight, right? Fortunately, I don't have my flashlight's batteries all hooked up, and I got the background going, so it would be a little tough. Yes, in dark with flashlights. If I could find my flashlight, I would have no issues doing that, but I have not actually. I do have one flashlight. Okay. I don't know if you'll be able to see me very well. All right, guys. Cynthia Downs, what is going on? How's it going? Welcome. So, guys, we're going to do scary stories in the dark. I'm only illuminated by my LED flashlight. So, we're going to do this here. Hey, what is going on, Paranormal Buddies? Yes, definitely, guys. It's going to be pretty cool. We're going to do live by flashlight. Be even cooler if I had like the flickering candle, but I don't have that. Anybody want these blood pressure cuffs on my legs? They were sent to me to wear in bed. Not sure. Maybe somebody will. Okay, guys, let's find out here. Can everybody hear me loudly and clearly? Hopefully. All right, let's do this. Two men named Banner and Griswold were hitchhiking on a lonely road, but no cars would stop for them. They were tired and sick of walking. The sun was setting fast, and they needed to find a place to spend the night. When they came across an old deserted house, they decided to seek shelter. The garden was overgrown with weeds and bushes, and the front door was cracked open on rusty hinges, and a carpet of dust lay on the floor. Two men took to some tins out of their backpack and ate a small meal, and then they unrolled their blankets on the floor, made themselves comfortable, and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Griswell suddenly awakened from a troubled sleep. It was dark, and he was shivering with the cold. And all of a sudden, he heard a strange noise. It was like a high-pitched whistling sound. And then just then, he noticed his friend Banner was sitting in the shadows, listening intensely, as he had looked. He was in some kind of a trance. And then the man slowly walked up the stairs, his boots clomping on the wooden steps. The shrill of the whistle got louder. Griswold wanted to call out to his friend and tell him to come back, but the words died in his throat. Banner kept walking up the stairs and eventually disappeared from view. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped, and Griswold held his breath. He waited and waited. Then he heard an awful scream, "Ah!" And the split of silence of the night almost made him jump out of his skin. Then the footsteps resumed and came down the stairs. Griswold was trembling in fear, as he had seen a pair of boots walking slowly down the stairs in the moonlight. He could see a groping hand on the banister. A ghastly chill ran down Griswold's spine, and he saw the other hand. It was clutching a bloody hatchet. He caught sight of his friend's face. It was deathly pale. His eyes were glazed over, and his mouth was twisted in a ghoulish grin. Blood was dripping from his forehead from a huge gash, almost splitting his head into two. Griswold let out a blood-curdling shriek and fled from the house. He ran blindly through the pitch black night, desperately trying to get away from the old house. He ran and ran, all the same time imagining his friend chasing him with the bloody axe and his bloody head and the ghastly death grin. He ran until he collapsed, exhausted. In the morning, he managed to find a police station and told the sheriff what they had seen. Together, they went back to the old house and checked it out. Griswold's blood had ran cold at the thought of what they might have found. The sheriff creaked open the door and looked inside. Griswold peered nervously over his shoulder. On the floor, he saw his friend. Banner was laying face down in the pool of his own blood. His head almost caved in half. His dead hand was still clutching the middle of the hatchet. The blade of the hatchet was embedded into the floor, exact same spot where Griswold's head had been laying there the night before. The sheriff searched the house from top to bottom, but never found another living soul. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hey, sharpshooter, love my dandelion. How's it going? Beth Plant is in the house. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. That was a pretty creepy story. Should do this more by flashlight more often. It's pretty cool. It does hurt my eyes a little bit, but makes for kind of a cool effect. Hey, Fallen Angel, how's it going? Good to catch you live. Hey, I love my creative spirit. How's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining as well. All right, guys, let's find another creepy story here. It was a terrible plane crash in Japan, and the police detective named Hamazaki was assigned to investigate the cause of the incident. There was only one survivor, a 13-year-old girl named Tyoko Chen, who had been badly injured during the crash and was in a coma. For a long time, the doctors did not think she would recover. However, within a few days, she miraculously gained consciousness. She was very, very weak and unable to speak. The doctors made it possible for her to communicate electronically. They attached electrodes to the back of her teeth. Whenever she gnashed her teeth, the electrodes touch, a beeper would sound. The detectives needed some questions, so she arranged a simple code to communicate with her. 2 beeps mean yes, 1 beep means no. Tyoko Chan was in very fragile state, and the doctors did not want her to get too excited. For this reason, the detectives was the only person allowed in the room with her. He was not allowed to record her video camera, but they did allow him to use audio tape recorder. The following transcript of their recorded session. Good morning, Tyoko-chan. I'm Detective Hamasaki. How are you? Are you feeling well enough to be able to talk to me? Beep beep. I need to ask you some questions about the accident. Beep beep. Was the plane taking off? Did you notice anything unusual? Beep. Were the other passengers normal? Beep beep. Something happened when the plane was in flight? Beep 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 beep. Does that mean yes? Beep 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 beep. I'm sorry, I know this is painful for you. Do you want me to stop for a moment? Beep. Okay, so we can continue. Beep beep. Before the accident, did the plane shake at all? Beep beep. Did you notice anything else unusual? Beep, beep. Was there something that scared you? Beep, 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 beep. What's wrong? Beep, 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 beep. You're trembling, Tiogo. To stay calm. I know. Something scared you very badly. Take a moment and relax. We'll continue. Beep, beep. Did you hear an engine sound? Beep. Did you hear an explosion or something? Beep. Did you see something through the window? Beep, beep. Didn't you did you see something hit the plane? Beep. What did you see from the window? Beep, 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 beep. Tioco, why are you so afraid? It's all right now. You don't need to be scared. You're safe now. You're in a hospital. Nothing can harm you. Beep, 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 beep. Come on now, calm down. Are you okay? Do you want us to continue? Beep, beep. When can you, what could you see out the window? Was it another aircraft? Beep. When was something wrong with the plane? Was there something wrong with the wing of the plane? Beep, beep. Was the wing broken? Beep, beep. Something fell off the wing? Beep. Something broke off the wing? Beep, beep. Was anything broken? Beep, beep. The window? Beep, beep. Something broke the window? She beeps for yes. Something came through the window? She again beeps for yes. That something, is that what caused the horrible wounds to the other passengers? She answers yes. The scratches all over your body, were they caused by something? She answers overwhelmingly with a yes. We found saliva in the wounds. Does something had a mouth? And she answers yes. With fangs and sharp teeth? And she answered yes again. Was it hairy? Yes to that as well. With eyes too? Yes. Did it have arms and legs? Yes. Was it small, smaller than a child? Yes. The other passengers, their internal organs were missing. They were devoured from the inside by this something. Yes, she replies. How did they get into her body? Through a hole? Yes. This something, it crawled through the stomach? No. No, it went through the mouth? Yes. And when it came out again, was it, uh, that's when it chewed through the stomach? Yes. You watched it devour the others? Overwhelmingly, yes. Your parents too? And she replies, yes, 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 yes. And it caused the deep scratches all over your body. And again, overwhelmingly, she says yes. It ate all the others but you. Why did it leave you alive? The silence. Why did it spare your life? Silence. Can you look? You look pale. Can you hear me? What is the matter with you? What's wrong? Are you all right? You don't look well. Are you bleeding? Is that blood? Tioko, you're bleeding. Oh my God, please help me. And this is where the recording ends. All that you can hear after the rest of the tape was the screams of Detective H and the sounds of gurgling, scraping, cracking, and munching. 20 minutes later, a nurse came into the room and found a horrific scene. The walls were spattered with blood and the half-eaten corpses of Detective Hamasaki lay on the floor. The 13-year-old girl known as Kyoto Chen was laying on the bed. There was a hole in her stomach and all of her internal organs had been missing. There was no trace of them. The recording is the only clue that mysterious murder of Detective Hamasaki and Tyoko Chen. The government went to a great deal to try to hush all of this up. The exact details of what occurred on the plane in that hospital remains shrouded in mystery even today. Right Side of Floyd is in the house. Welcome. How did you guys enjoy that story? I know it's kind of a long one and it's kind of repetitive, but still pretty creepy. Thank you, everybody who's joining. If you have not yet shared this out, please consider doing so. Greatly appreciate it. Haven't checked social media yet. See if anybody's sharing this out. Thank you to everybody for the 3,000 subscribers now on HSFL Paranormal. Big shout out to everybody here. Thank you so much for making this possible. Thank you for keeping these streams alive. I really appreciate it, guys. That is so awesome of everybody. Oh, thank you, Beth. I really appreciate it. Fallen Angel, thank you so much for sharing this out. I really appreciate that. Alrighty, guys, let's find another scary story. A few years ago, when I was a student, I was on a road trip with my friend. We had finished our exams and we were in search of a little excitement and an adventure. My friend brought his pet dog on the journey to keep us company. We didn't have much money and we could not afford to stay in hotels. Instead, we stopped on the side of the road and slept in the car. Because we didn't have much money, one evening it was getting dark. We came across a small seaside village. It was located on the coast at the base of a mountain. We are running low on fuel, so we drove around looking for a place to fill up the tank. Driving down the coastal road, we noticed the only gas station in the village, but it had already closed. It was a little town with a gas pump outside, so we walked in, rang the bell, and there was a large basket hanging from the front door. It was filled with meat and vegetables and little candy and little trinkets. It looked like it was an offering or the kind of thing that you leave in a shrine. I rang the doorbell once again and somebody peeked through the blinds, but nobody answered the door. Hey, I know you're home. Answer the door. There's no reply. Our car is getting low on gas and we don't want to be stranded out here, I said. The lights went on and I heard locks being unfastened. The door just started to begin to crack and a figure peered through. What do you want? He growled. I just want some gasoline. Can't you see we're closed already? I'm sorry to bother you, but we're really stuck. Don't you know where you are? Get out of here now. I'd like to, but we need gas. Here, take this. He opened the door and thrust a container of gasoline into my hands. Now go away and leave us alone. And he slammed the door in my face. I thought it was rude, but since he didn't ask me to pay for the gas, I just thanked him and left. Walking back to the car, I noticed something. I noticed that the streets were deserted. Everything was silent. All the houses were dark, and each one had a basket hanging from the door. Is this some kind of festival? We wondered. If it is, I don't know anything about it. We were both tired from driving all day, and we decided to stay in the village overnight and continue our journey in the morning. We pulled in the parking lot on the side of the road that overlooked the sea. My friend climbed in the back seat with his dog and wrapped a blanket around myself in the front seat and tried to get some sleep. And just then, the dog started to growl. Bad growl. and I noticed a fishy smell in the air. The dog bared his teeth and continued to growl as it stared out into the sea. Usually the dog was quiet and well behaved. Something seemed to have spooked it. I strained my eyes to see in the darkness, and the sea looked calm and eerie, illuminated by a pale moonlight. I could see something wriggling on the edge of the concrete quay. What is that? I hissed. I don't know, my friend whispered hoarsely. At first, it looked like a log floating in the water, but as we watched, the thing seemed to crawl out of the sea. It slowly made its way up to the land, twisting and slithering like a snake, but there was no sound at all. It looked like it was a mass of black smoke, swirling around and shaping itself into an enormous man. I could hear a terrible ringing sound in my ears. The fishy smell had become so bad it was sickening. The black figure crossed the road and reached the first house opposite to the parking lot. The thing was almost as tall as the house itself, and it was shaped like a deformed human with long hanging arms and spindly legs. It peered through the windows as it had a face, and then it went over to the basket hanging on the door and began to devour everything inside. I looked over at my friend and saw that he was sitting in the back seat, shaking like a leaf. I was so scared I could barely move a muscle. My entire body was stiff and my heart was beating so fast I was afraid it was going to leap out of my chest. The disgusting smell of dead fish hung in the air like a thick fog. It was almost overpowering, and the figure roaming from house to house, peering through windows and grabbing things out of the basket. Start the car! My friend started with a trembling voice. As soon as I turned the key to the ignition, the black figure slowly looked at us and turned around. Then the thing started to move towards us. I floored the accelerator out of the parking lot. The dog began to bark like crazy in the back seat. My friend was screaming at me. I did not dare to look back. We drove as fast as we could until we were out of the village and into the next town. When we ran out of gas, I grabbed the can of gasoline and quickly filled the tank and just kept going. By morning, we were exhausted. We had left the village and the strange inhabitants far behind. When I got home a few days later, I told my parents about the frightening experience. My mother had vaguely remembered legends that she had heard when she was a young girl about a small fishing village on the coast. She said that the village was cursed and plagued by some supernatural creature or demon. On the same day of every year, something would rise out of the sea and attack the villagers, tearing them apart and devouring them. To protect themselves, they would lock their doors at night and leave offerings outside of their homes to ward off the creature. Ever since then, I kept away from the sea. There's something about the smell of fish that strikes fear into my heart, and makes me involuntarily tremble and shake like a leaf. How did you guys enjoy that story? Thank you so much for watching. What's going on, everybody? I see some more people joined us. We have Victorian Canadian Witch, Right Side of Floyd, Carol out of her comfort zone, Sharpshooter, Lady C Crazy Life Adventures, Nature Kathy's in the house. A lot of people: Beth Plant, Fallen Angel, Julie Cole, Texas GT, Bama Bell Liz. Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining. 22 people in the house now. Thank you, guys. Hey, Recycle Dude, how you doing, brother? My illustrations are lagging. It's all good. Thank you, though. Hope you guys are enjoying that story. This was the first time I shared this story on this one. That was a pretty crazy story. Ooh, we got 24. Hey, what's going on, Bama? All right. I thought that story was going to be lame, but it'd probably be one of the best stories I've read on here. There was a young boy who lived with his parents in a small, run-down apartment. They lived in a bad part of the city, and there was a lot of crime in the area. Their apartment was on the ground floor of the building, and it was badly in need of repair. Some of the windows were cracked and broken, and the doors were never locked properly. The boys often had problems sleeping because all they could hear was noise from the street outside. He begged his parents to fix the windows and the locks on the door, but they told him they couldn't afford it. Both of his parents had to work long hours to make ends meet. One night, the boy lay sleeping peacefully in his room. He was suddenly awakened to a strange scratching noise sitting up from the bed. He strained his ears to listen, but he could not figure out where it was coming from. The bedroom was almost pitch black, and the blinds were drawn, shutting out of the glare of the street light outside. The boys got out of bed and made his way down into the darkened hallway of his parents' room. "Mom," he whispered, "there's a weird sound coming from my room." His mother groaned. "Probably a tree branch tapping against your window," she replied. "But there's no trees near my window." "Then it's probably the rats in the walls," his mother said. "Leave me alone, I'm trying to sleep." The boy reluctantly went back to his room, but he was still nervous and afraid. He got into bed and closed his eyes and tried his best to relax. He was just about to fall asleep when he heard the scratching noises again. This time they were growing louder. He still couldn't tell where they were coming from. He tried to ignore them, but it was impossible. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his back. Ah! He jumped out of bed and cried out loud. It feels like he had been bitten by something small, kind of like an insect, and he had ran to his parents' room. "Dad, something bit me." His father rubbed his eyes and got out of bed. He examined his son's back to find a small puncture mark. There was 2 drops of blood seeping from the wound. "It doesn't look like an insect bite." "Then what is it?" The father didn't reply. Instead, he went into the son's bedroom and followed close behind. He switched on the lights and inspected the bed. There was a small hole in the sheet from some of the stuffing from the mattress was coming out. "I know what happened," said his father. "One of these springs in the mattress must have broke through." Dad flipped his mattress and looked underneath. What he found will shock him with horror. There was a long knife sticking out from the bottom of the mattress, and at the bottom of the bed, he found mud and dirt on the carpet. The bedroom window was unlocked, and outside, where there's fresh footprints in the muddy grass. During the night, someone had slipped into the boy's room through an unlocked window and waited under his bed. The mysterious scratching sound was from somebody laying under his bed, stabbing through the mattress with a knife, trying to kill him. How do you guys like that story? Trying to bring some new stories onto this stream here. I'm glad you guys liked it so far. Guys, if you're enjoying these stories, let other people know that these stories are happening right now and try to get some more people to tune in and listen. They're pretty amazing, guys. I know it's really late too for especially the East Coast people. All right, guys. So the next story is about a video camera. A few years ago, a young man named Brian went to a university. He didn't have enough money to live on campus, so he had to rent an apartment, rent his own apartment in the city. Hey, what's going on, Greg? Man, after he had lived there alone for a while, he began to notice some strange things happening. Often, when he came back from college, the curtains in his bedroom would be drawn. He distinctively remembered leaving them open when he left that morning. Other times, some of his belongings would seem to have been moved, and others were nowhere to be found. Hey, Chris, Bakersfield Paranormal Services. What's up, buddy? These strange occurrences started to creep Brian out. So the young man decided to talk to his friends, Trisha and Alex, about the situation. They met at a local diner over coffee, and he told them about the strange things he had noticed. Maybe I'm just paranoid, said Brian. Maybe but just to get the sneaking suspicion that someone is breaking into my apartment during the day while I'm at the university and what? Interrupted Alex. Rearranging your curtains and moving your stuff around? Who in their right mind would want to do that? Sounds crazy, but I might have a stalker, said it might sound crazy, but you might have a stalker, said Trisha. It's a possibility. If it's true, wouldn't you think the best thing to do would be to contact the police? What can you do? Said Alex. They're not going to spend their time keeping your apartment under surveillance. Besides, there's no damage to any of your things and no sign of a break-in, and there's no evidence. So what are my options? I can't just do nothing. I know. I know what you can do to put your mind at ease, said Tricia. It's easy. You get a video camera and set it up in your bedroom and leave it running when you're at college. If you really do have a stalker, you can show the police as evidence. That's a great idea, he said. And if you're just paranoid, you can show it to your psychiatrist, joked Alex. That night, Brian borrowed Trisha's video camera and brought it home. The very next morning, he hid it discreetly under some folders underneath his desk or near his desk. Before he went to college, he pressed a record button and started to record before he left. Sorry. He pressed a record button and left it running. Sorry, there was a big ass typo there. During the day, he sat taking notes of the lectures. The young man forgot all about his video camera. It was not until he arrived when he went into his bedroom that he remembered the plan. Taking the video camera out of its hiding place, he pressed the stop button. He took out his mobile phone and called his friends. Trisha, I just got home. I'm going to go watch the video. Cool. Don't hang up. Tell me if you see anything. He pressed the play button and watched the video recorder tiny screen. He saw himself leaving for the university and saw him also closing the door. There was nothing. He pressed fast forward and scanned through the video. The room was empty. Still nothing? I can't wait, said Trisha. Is there anything worth watching on the TV at the moment? Oh my God, Brian cried as he pressed play on the camera. What? She said excitedly. The door is opening and it's a woman. What is she doing? Just standing there, closing the door, walking around. Oh my God, it's so weird. What does she look like? I can't see her face. Long black stringy hair and a tattered dress. Did you know her? No, I don't recognize her at all. She's carrying a knife, a big kitchen knife, and they're going through my trash. Now she's picking up my clothes and sniffing them. Ah, gross. What is wrong with her? She's going over to the closet. She just got into the closet. Fast forward to see if she does anything else. He scanned the video for a while, but the room was empty. You know what this means? I have evidence now. I can go to the police and they'll take me seriously. I know. They'll have to. Alex is going to totally freak out over this. No doubt. He didn't believe you, but I did. I know you're a good friend. Wait, what? Brian pressed it again. The door is opening again. Who is it? Okay, it's just Brian. He's coming home from college. He was watching himself on the screen, shutting the camera. Let's go to the police now. I'll go with you, and you can show him the tape. I'll meet you at the diner in 15 minutes. Brian grabbed the video camera. Oh, wait, just a minute, said Tricia. You said she got into the closet. Did she ever leave? Did she ever come out of the closet? A chill ran down his spine. Behind him, he could hear the door creak open. Brian, get out of there! Screamed Tricia, but it was too late. The phone went dead. She tried to call him again, but no answer. Later that evening, police found the body of 18-year-old college student Brian laying in a pool of his own blood, stabbed 21 times. The video camera was clutched in his cold, dead hands, and the police examined the camera. They discovered that the memory card was missing. No trace of the woman had ever been found. Right now, she could be hiding in your closet. Dream Walking Angel, I'm so glad that you liked the stories. One night, a 16-year-old girl was babysitting for two boys. Their parents weren't due home until very late, so she let him stay up and watch some TV. One of the boys was flipping through the channel when it came over his emergency news bulletin. The reporter said that a crazed murderer had been escaped from a nearby mental asylum and was on the run from local authorities. He was believed to be in the area armed with a hatchet. Police cautioned residents to lock their doors and windows because he was considered extremely dangerous. The young boys began to panic and did not want to upset. She did not want them to be upset, so she put them to bed early. As she tucked them in, they kept asking her if they had locked all the doors and windows. She assured them that she would lock everything, and she went back downstairs to watch the television. Sometime later, the boys awakened to a loud crash. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, so he sat up in bed, intently listening. After a while, he began to hear some strange noises coming from the stairs. Drag. Drag. But he wondered if it was his imagination trying to run away with him. Maybe it was the sound of the babysitter watching television downstairs. The boy heard the sound again and woke up his brother. Together they listened at the bedroom. The boys began to shake in fear. Terrified, they pushed their beds against the door and barricaded themselves inside of the room. The sounds eventually stopped, but the boys were too afraid to leave the safety of their room. For hours, they cowered in the bedrooms with their beds jammed against the door. Later that night, the parents arrived shocked to find a gruesome scene. There was a trail of blood leading from the hallway up into the stairs. In a panic, the mother screamed out the boys' names. When the two boys heard their mother calling, they pulled back their beds and opened the door. Lying at the top of their stairs in the pool of their own blood was their babysitter. Her arms had been cut off at the elbow and her legs had been cut off to the knees. She had uh, she had to use her bloody stumps to drag herself up the stairs, trying to warn them. Now that is one dedicated babysitter. Hey, Mary, how's it going? Wish I had a beer. Yeah, these stories do get pretty creepy. How'd you guys like that story? I tried to add like little sound effects with what I have in my room just to make the stories more suspenseful. Oh, you like that one, Greg? Awesome. I have sweet tea. I'm doing fantastic. So, this is a short story. A long time ago, there was a man who went hunting in the woods. As night fell, he found himself in an unfamiliar part of the woods. He had walked and walked. Hey, what's going on? How's it going, bro? Good to see you, Irish. Let's see. As the night fell, he found himself in an unfamiliar part of the forest. He walked and walked, and he could not find his way home. Wandering aimlessly in the dark, he would eventually come to a small clearing in the old ramshackle cabin. Tired and weary, he decided that he would stay there for the night. When he came closer to the cabin, he saw the door was standing ajar. Poking his head inside, he could see that the little cabin was completely empty. But there was a bed and a fireplace, fire burning in the fireplace. The hunter threw himself on the bed and decided to sleep there for the night. If the owner came back, he would ask his permission in the morning. Laying on the bed, half asleep, he looked around, surprised to see all the walls covered with paintings. All of them appeared to be family portraits, framed and painted in incredible detail. Some seemed very lifelike, without exception. Each family member's portrait was uglier than the next. The hideous faces of the paintings made him feel very uneasy. The way that the way that they were painted made them seem as their eyes were staring directly at him. It was incredibly unnerving. He decided the only way he was going to sleep is to ignore the hideous faces staring at him. So he turned to fall asleep on the side, facing the wall. He pushed the blanket over his head and drifted asleep. In the morning, the hunter woke up to the cabin bathed in sunlight. When he looked up, he discovered that there was no family portraits on the walls, just windows. Ooh, that one was creepy. I don't know. I'd have probably shit a brick if I saw that. Oh my god, that's he's lucky he's alive. Yeah, that is creepy. Ooh. All right, guys. Strange photos. come soon and hunt what scares people the most. Yep. Trying to find another good story here. I'm glad you like the stories, Julie. Here's another short story. There was a teenage girl who was hired to babysit two young children. After the parents had left, she put the two children to bed and went downstairs to watch TV. Suddenly, she could hear a noise coming from the basement. It was the washing machine starting up. And when she went to go turn it off, she was about to go turn it off when she opened the basement door. The noise stopped. Shrugging her shoulders, she returned to the living room and started to watch TV. 5 minutes later, she heard the washing machine start up again. The washing machine. She got up and opened the basement door and walked slowly down the stairs. She had only gone a few steps when the noise started to stopped again. So she went back up to watch TV. A few moments later, she heard the washing machine yet again. Worried, she went upstairs and gathered the children and ran over to the neighbor's house to call the police. A few moments after they had arrived, they went down to search the basement. A man, armed with an axe, was hiding behind the washing machine. He was trying to lure the babysitter down into the basement in order to kill her. Ooh. Let's find another one here. The policeman sat on the sofa with his pen and notebook in his hands. The old woman came with a cup of tea and sat down on the in front of the table. Before you take me down to the station, perhaps I should tell you why I did it. The officer, man, I am tongue tied tonight. The officer said the truth is, it was mostly for the company. It gets very lonely when you're an old lady, and young people never seem to want to spend any time with me. I just enjoy sitting and talking. I know, Bakersfield. The policeman stared at her impassively. Miss Ordway? Okay. Miss Ordway was the very first. She had always sat down in her comfy chair. I remember like it was yesterday. She came to my door to sell beauty products. I invited her and made a cup of tea for her. I went into the kitchen and fetched my axe. And then, when she least expected, I crept up behind her and chopped her head off. Let's see. The next was Mr. Bliggerman. God, who comes up with these names? He was a plumber. He came to fix my leaky pipes. When he was taking a break from his work, I made him a cup of tea and I took my axe from behind the sofa and chopped his head off too. The third was the paper boy, little Jimmy Watkins. I told him to come inside and while I looked for my purse. He didn't drink the tea. So I gave him a plate of cookies, and children cannot resist cookies. While he was munching away on the cookie, I began chomping with my axe, and his came off as well. I stuffed the heads on my mantelpiece, and I talked to him day and night. I carry on conversations with them. It helps with the loneliness. The only problem was what to do with the bodies. I couldn't stuff them all. That'd be too much work, so I came up with an ingenious solution. So what did I do? It was simple. I stuffed the body and used it for all the heads. And when I was tired of talking to them, I would take the head off and put it back on the mantelpiece and put another head on the body. Isn't that clever? The policeman didn't answer. Well, I'm getting a little bored with our conversation, officer, said the lady with a sigh. She stood up and took the police officer's head clean off and put it back on the mantelpiece. She took down the saleswoman's head and placed it on the body. Oh, good, Mr. Ordway, she said. Nice to see you again. How have you been? So what did you guys think of that story? I was trying to do like this voice, and for whatever reason, I'm like tired, and yeah, so it just wasn't mixing with that. Good story. I'm glad. All right. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. T- Coil's burnt out. My life is nutty, and this is a great escape. Oh yeah, I hear you. You comments just turned into a cooking show, right? All right. After the murders, the house lay empty for 2 whole years. The newspapers were full of sickening details about the brutal crime. And whenever prospective buyers heard what happened behind those gray concrete walls, they stayed well away. One day, a young man and a married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Griffin, that's fine, came to view the house, and they liked the look of it, and the price is very low. They decided to buy it, but before they moved in, they had some workmen to clean up the blood stains on the wall and the bathtub and the kitchen sink. They installed new carpeting over the stubborn blood stains on the floorboard, and even after airing out the house for a week, there was still an odd smell that lingered in the hall closet. The Griffins thought that it was best to avoid telling their children about the grim history of their new home. There was no sense in needlessly upsetting the little ones. It might cause sleepless nights. The, uh, for the first few days, things went splendidly. The children had a party, invited all their friends from school. Mr. and Mrs. Griffin went around to meet their new neighbors. It seemed like they were settling in nicely. One night, as they were getting ready for bed, Mrs. Griffin thought that it was in a thoughtful mood. Do you know that Mrs. Bentley's hands were found in the kitchen? She asked. Oh, said her husband. Really? Yes, and her fingers were in the dining room. How ghastly, her husband replied. I wouldn't I wouldn't mind if she had a gun, she said, but the way he carried it out, bits and pieces here and there. Well, he made a mess of the whole house. It wasn't all his doing, said her husband. If Miss Bentley hadn't insisted on dragging herself from room to room trying to escape, well, she wouldn't have had to drag herself if he hadn't chopped off her legs, said the wife. I suppose you're right, my dear, said Mr. Griffin. Do you think we should invite the Talbot sisters over for dinner tomorrow? Oh, those two old pair of gossips, said his wife. The only reason they're coming to see if we manage to get rid of all the stains. He didn't plan in advance, you see, the husband. He was wanting to know that her sister, how would he know his sister would drop by unexpectedly? Of course, when the mailman came to deliver the letters and saw what was going on, he obviously had to go too. It was a mess, said Mrs. Griffin. I think I'll take a bath before bed. In the bath where he chopped off her legs, said the husband. Yeah, that one. The downstairs bath looks too dirty. Well, in that case, I'll just pop into the bathroom when you're getting ready, he said. Mr. Griffin was shaving himself in the bathroom and suddenly felt strange. Staring at himself in the mirror, he noticed something was wrong. He didn't feel like himself, and then he stared at his reflection, and an odd sensation came over him, as in his mind somehow was clouded, and he couldn't quite control his own actions. He quietly opened up the bedroom door and walked slightly down the hallway and tiptoed up the stairs to the attic. When he got there, he opened a small cupboard and saw it was standing in the corner. He had no idea but he knew it. Uh, sorry, he had no idea how, but he knew it would be there. The axe. The Miss Griffin was standing in front of the bedroom mirror, putting her hair up, when she noticed her husband come into the room. His hands were behind his back, almost as if he was hiding something there, and was a curious look on his face. What are you thinking, my dear? I think I won't make such a mess this time. Oh, gotcha. No problem, Mary. Thank you so much for joining if you decided to head out, and I appreciate you dropping by. I know, that was a good one. Yeah, that was creepy for sure. Hold on, guys. Let me see here. All right, let's find another one. I had a strange dream last night. It was the kind of dream that seems all too real. Right up to the point where you wake up in a cold sweat. Last night, when I was laying in bed and drifting off to sleep, an uneasy feeling came over me. It was almost as if I was being watched, but more than that. It felt like there was somebody in the room with me. As disturbing as the feeling was, I couldn't keep myself from falling asleep. I don't recall how the anxiety began, but the first thing I remember is walking out from my house. All the neighbors' houses were gone, and I found myself on a long, empty road. It was cold and dark, and there was nobody else. I felt completely lost and alone, but I wasn't afraid. I don't know how long I was on the road, but it felt like I was walking endlessly. Eventually, reaching a fork in the road, and when I stopped, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. and a voice called for me from the side of the road. I'm sorry to see you here, but but it's good to see you. I recognized the voice. It was my old friend from childhood, someone I hadn't seen in years. He looked a little different from what I remembered. Even though we were both the same age, he seemed much younger than me somehow. He was very pale and dark circles around his eyes, and his lips were blue. What are you doing here? I asked. I'm here to warn you. There's a man in your house. What do you mean? I was just there. You don't understand, replied my friend with apparent urgency. He's in your house right now. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I was curious. I asked, Who? The cold man, he replied. He comes to people at night when they're afraid. He waits to be noticed, and he makes his move. You know when you feel that chill on your back that something really scares you. That's him standing right behind you. What does that? What does he? Or sorry, what does he do once you notice him? My friend looked down. Just don't let him in, he cautioned. What do you mean? He can be close forever. He will walk around your house at night and even stand in your room while you're asleep, like is right now. He can know where you are. He can even be looking at you, but he won't find you unless you find him. How does he find you? I mean, how do you let him in? My friend glanced over his shoulder as he was worried somebody might overhear. Leaning in close, he whispered, If you see him, you can hear him. Or suddenly started to feel something very, very cold, and I didn't move. Don't talk to him. Don't acknowledge him. Whatever you do, don't let him in. I don't understand, I pleaded. How do I get rid of him? You can't, my friend said sadly. Look, I'm already out of time. Out of time, I repeated, not sure exactly what he meant. My friend shook his head. His eyes were wide and shriveling. And just then I noticed a dark, creepy figure creeping from the woods. My time is up. Whatever you do, don't let him in. Don't answer it. Before I could do anything more, my friend was enveloped into the shadows, and something seemed to pull him into the darkness. I couldn't see anymore. I was about to run after him when I was wakened by a loud noise. When I opened my eyes, I found myself sitting upright in my bedroom, fully dressed. I could have sworn I wasn't dressed when I went into bed. My shoes were covered in a thin layer of dust, and my feet were sore, and I felt so cold. I heard a ringing noise, and when I looked down, I saw that my hands were holding my phone. I was about to answer it when I remembered my friend's word. I didn't answer it, and it stopped ringing. I rubbed my hands together, and the room was cold as ice. I felt that I was being watched, and was so strong as it had ever been. I could hear something moving inside of my closet, but I didn't move. I just closed my eyes and waited. Eventually, I heard the footsteps in my closet grow more and more faint, as if I had walked down in some unseen hallway. And when the footsteps finally stopped, the coldness dissipated and the room returned back to normal. He didn't get in this time. My friend in the dream was telling the truth. If that thing in my closet was who I think it was, I must never let him in. I know I'll be back. I didn't know when. Oh, sorry. Uh, I didn't know what happened to my friend, but I just hope people remember his warning. If you feel cold while reading this, don't be alarmed. If you hear something in your house, just ignore it. You can't afford to have him find you. Don't let the cold man in. Hey, Tammy. How'd you guys like that story? You like that one? Hope you guys are enjoying these stories. They're always fun to read. The weather out here in California has been beautiful. Oh, yeah, it's been nice. A little warm, but not too bad. Sorry, guys. I'm more tired than I thought I was. Been on for an hour and 16 minutes. Woohoo. Oh, you love the background? I'm so glad. Oh, wow. That's crazy. I was thinking of going to sleep, but as soon as you said stands over your bed, watches you sleep, that changed. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I love putting these streams together. This is by far one of my favorite streams to do, and why it's gone on for over 40 different After Dark specials. Let's see if I can get some more people in here. I'm gonna share this out to Instagram real quick. Seriously, need to crawl under some covered the colors, right? Hey, Exploring Ginger, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining. Let me grab this for Instagram real quick. And don't get me into preacher mode, lol. Huh. Oh, that's cool. Some more people decide to show up and check this stream out. Alrighty, guys. Let's find another story. Alright, so this one is called Sock Puppet. Many years ago in Ireland, there was a wealthy man who lived in the village. He owned every single plot of land surrounding the village and rented them out to poor farmers in order to get a tidy profit. The man lived in the biggest house in the village with his lovely wife and his two strong sons and his small, sickly daughter. He was kind to all of his children and treated his wife like a queen. However, in the business, he was ruthless and cunning. He made a lot of money by charging villagers high rent and treating all of his tenants as if they were slaves. If any of them were behind on their rent, he would throw them out of their houses without a moment's notice. The villagers hated the rich man and and despised his cruel and miserly ways. He often would throw lavish parties, inviting only his friends and family, and like a king, while the poor villagers had to skimp and save just to fill up their bellies. All they could afford was a meager diet of bread and potatoes. One year, the potato blight and all the crops were affected. As winter set in, the villagers were starving to death, and the rich man paid no attention to the trouble of his tenants by responding to them by raising the rents. Then, as if money wasn't enough, he threw a Christmas party for all of his friends and family, where they were enjoying an enormous feast and sarcastic drank sarcastic toasts to the plight of the starving tenants. One night, a villager arrived at the door bearing a gift. He said it was a Christmas present for the rich man's daughter. The girl opened the present and found a sock puppet inside. The villager said he knit it himself and asked if he could have some food. In return, the rich man handed a villager one single solitary potato and sent him on his way. Although it was a hideous old rag, the daughter seemed to love the puppet. She named it Charlie and put it on her hand and showed it to everybody at the party. That night, when the party was all over, the father was going to bed. He paused at his daughter's room and looked in on her. She was fast asleep, and he was about to leave when something disturbed him. The sock puppet was still on her hand, and its plastic eyes seemed to be staring straight at him. He ignored it and walked out, meaning that he was just imagining things. That night, the rich landlord and his wife slept in the chamber. They heard a knock on the door. It was their daughter. "Mama, Papa, Charlie needs to speak with you," she said. They saw their daughter, blood dripping from one hand of the sock puppet on the other, blood dripping from one hand and the sock puppet on the other. Staring at them both, Charlie already spoke to Michael and Jacob. Said the daughter. Charlie already spoke with Jacob and Michael, said the daughter, moving the sock puppet's mouth as if it was speaking. Now he must speak with you. For weeks, the rich man's house lay eerily silent. The villagers saw no candles in the windows and no smoke from the chimneys. Eventually, they decided to check on the family, and what they discovered shocked them to their very core. In the living room sat the two brothers. Both strong young men had their heads twisted off and placed in their hands as if they were puppets. The same thing had seemed to happen to the parents, who were found dead, decaying in their beds. The most disturbing sight of all was the little girl, sitting in the corner of the bedroom with her severed head planted on one hand, smiling sweetly with her eyes wide open, and the other hand with the sock puppet. Due to the rigor mortis, her arms were sticking out and seemed as if the two hands were speaking to each other. Just recently, a family moved into the house. They moved into the country because the family doctor said it might help their sick daughter recover from the illness. Everyone was fine until one night when the mother heard the daughter call her out. Before the mother could open the door, she heard her daughter talking. She peeked She peeked in, and the girl was fast asleep. "What did she need, honey?" asked the father. His wife returned. The mother paused before speaking. "I have no idea. The poor little thing must have been talking in her sleep." "Do you know where she got that awful sock puppet? She's been wearing it on one hand, seeming like one hand, it almost seemed like it was staring straight at me. Creepy. Yeah, sock puppets are creepy. All right. When I was younger, there was a ruined old building at the bottom of our street. All the kids in the area kept well away from it because there was a rumor that it was haunted. The concrete walls of the two-story building were cracked and crumbling, and the windows were broken and shards of glass lay on the floor inside. One evening, in test of courage, my best friend and I decided to explore the old creepy place. Well, let me know where it is. I want to go check it out. We climbed in through the window at the back of the building, and the whole place was dirty. There was a layer of mud on the wooden floor. As we dusted ourselves off, we looked around and were shocked to see someone had written the words, "I am dead," on the wall near the ceiling. Probably just some teenagers trying to scare the kids. Yeah, probably, my friend said nervously. I explored more of the rooms on the ground floor. It seemed to appear uh, in a room that appeared to have been a kitchen of sorts. We found more writing on the wall. "I'm in a room upstairs," it read. I walked into the creaky stairs on the second floor. I led the way to my friend, who followed close behind. I wasn't scared, but he was starting to get a little jittery. When we came to the top of the stairs, we turned left and walked cautiously down the narrow hallway. At the end of the hallway was a closed door with some more ominous writing on it. "You will find me in this room." By now, my friend was shaking with fear. I was quite creeped out too, but I didn't want to show it. He told me he didn't want to go any further, but I insisted there was nothing to be afraid of. I turned the handle and creaked open the door. We stepped into the room and found it empty. There was two closet doors on each side. There was more creepy writing on the walls. It read, "My head is on the left and my body is on the right." As soon as my friend saw this, he completely lost his nerve. He began to yell. He gave out a yelp and turned away. I caught hold of his arm and he shook me off and fled out the door. I heard his footsteps disappear into the hallway. I held my ground. I was determined to brave and overcome my fear. Mustering all my courage, I opened the door on the right and walked inside. I walked to the other side of the room. Written in letters, uh, written in tiny letters were the words, "My body is underneath." I looked down at the floor and I was standing on some more writing on the floorboards. I stepped back and saw the words, "My head is coming from the room behind you. Turn around." I heard the door creaking behind me and slowly turned. There was a shadow moving from the floor, moving from behind the door. Suddenly, something rolled into me and into the room and came against the wall. My friend's severed head. He was dead. His sightless eyes were staring front at me. Screaming in horror, I flung myself through the open door and fell 2 stories to the ground. I lay on my side, breaking my arm. In horrible pain, I ran home, crying, yelling for my parents. The policemen were called to search the ruined building. At first, they didn't find anything. There wasn't any writing on the wall, and they combed the house from top to bottom and didn't find traces of my friend. They pried the floorboards. His body was laying underneath. They never found his head. How did you guys like that story? Hey, Lee and Ladybug, how's it going? Thank you so much for sharing this, Leah. That was a good one, huh? That was creepy. You and severed heads tonight, right? It's very creepy. This one is called Bouquet of Flowers. Now let's find out what happens. It is a short story. There was a woman named Mary who worked in technical support as a specialist in a call center. It was very busy and the phones rang off the hook. She was having trouble keeping up with the huge number of calls. Shortly after lunch, Mary answered the phone and it was a very angry customer on the other end. I can totally relate. She had been waiting on hold for nearly 45 minutes. She apologized for keeping him waiting, but he was very angsted and did not want to listen to her excuses. He was not able to find a solution to his problem immediately. He began to get even more upset. She put him on hold, and then when she came back, he became very hostile to her. Mary asked him to remain calm and even assured him that she would fix his problem as soon as possible. No matter what she said, it seemed to anger him more and more. He even shouted at her, ranting and raving. She knew she was wasting precious time trying to and complaining about how much money the phone call was costing him. Eventually, the irate customer began to curse and swear at her. Mary was forced to hang up on him. An hour later, he called back. His attitude was even worse. He flung into a rage and demanded to know why she hung up on the phone. When she started to use foul language again, Mary slammed down the receiver. At the end of the day, the man called back, this time calmed down and seemed embarrassed. He apologized for his rude behavior and asked her to tell her her name, telling her that he wanted to send something to her to make up for it. Oh, you don't need to do that, said Mary. No, 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 I really want to. Just a little present to show how sorry I am. Not actually supposed to give out her name, she said warily. Just give me your first name then, he said. Okay, my name is Mary. Sure enough, when Mary came to work the next day, there was a lavish bouquet of flowers sitting on her desk. There was a card with the flowers that had her name on it. Mary was delighted. Nobody ever sent her flowers before. At the end of the day, when her shift ended, Mary said goodbye to her coworkers, picked up the bouquet of flowers, and walked out the car park. She wanted to get the flowers home so she could put them in a vase. She was getting to the car when she turned around to see a small, balding, middle-aged guy walking towards her. He suddenly pulled out a gun and pointed it at her. No one hangs up on me, he shouted as he pulled the trigger. Mary was shot 4 times and died on the way to the hospital. The police tracked down the man who shot and arrested him. It turns out he was the angry customer. He had sent the bouquet of flowers in order to identify her. It's kind of more sad than scary. Whenever you Well, we'll figure it out, Bakersfield. We'll do something here soon. I'm sure I'll be coming up there in the future. Yeah, it was a kind of a sad story, actually. Man, a little part of me feels bad for Mary because I used to work in a call center doing that exact same stuff. Yeah, it very premeditated. That guy is definitely going down for murder in the first degree. Probably either life imprisonment because people like that usually kind of just admit to doing it. Yeah, I killed her. Blah blah blah. Shot her in cold blood, and he gets life imprisonment. Ah, have a great rest of your night, Julie. Take care. Gives us all a break. Yeah, I hear you. I like to put on these streams and have fun with everybody. Oh, no problem. Have a good night. Sleep well. Hopefully, the stories aren't too scary. All right, let's find the next one. Hey, Colleen. So glad you like the stories. When I was in school, my best friend Jessica was really into scary stories, ghosts, and urban legends, just like we're telling right now. She seemed to know every creepy tale that there was, and she read all about them on this scary website that she went to. At the time, we loved listening to various creepy stories and urban legends that she had told us. Through all of, though all of her friends heard about the slit mouth woman named Cash, Kashmia Riko, another one of the weird Japanese legends. Some of them really terrified me. One day, Jessica invited myself and two of our friends, Margaret and Sophie, to a sleepover at her house. That evening, after school, we followed Jessica home and went up to the bedroom. She started to talk about a new Japanese urban legend that she had read about and begged us to do a Ouija board with her. I told her I don't want to mess around with the occult, but she said it was not an actual Ouija board, but the Japanese version of the game, but a Japanese version of the game she had seen on a scary website. It was called Korori San. Because it was in Japanese, it didn't involve summoning demons. I guess I thought it would be okay. But just to be safe, we shouldn't. We should play with the silver coin," said Sophie. "Okay, but why?" said Jessica. "I've heard that if you play with the Ouija board with the silver coin, it protects you from being possessed," she said. Luckily, Jessica's mother had a coin collection and took one of the silver coins out of the case and brought it upstairs. We sat in a circle on the bedroom floor while Jessica was drew the board, uh, putting letters and numbers on it. When she had finished, she placed the coin on the middle of the board, and in a weird squiggly red shape that she had drawn, we started to play Kurion Sun. We put each finger on the silver coin and called out, Kurion San, come play with us. The rest of us never read anything about it, so we didn't know what we were doing. The coin started to suddenly move, and we were all shocked. After a while, we were having a lot of fun and spent time talking to the spirit about questions that we could come up with. Who does Jared like, me or Jessica? I asked quietly or excitedly. The coin moved over and spelled out my name. I knew it. I squealed with delight. Jessica wasn't so happy. We were all grinning stupidly at each other. It was like we had found a new playmate. However, when we asked the spirit more questions, I noticed something strange happen. Whenever the spirit was whenever the spirit was asked a question, instead of yes or no, it would always spell out okay. Because of this, it was a bit difficult to tell what the spirit's real answer was. As we continued to play, it grew louder out, it grew darker outside. We eventually ran out of questions to ask. We decided to call it a day and go home. And Jessica said it was important to end the game properly, or something bad might happen. Corion-san, please go back to the other world, she called out. The coin moved over to O and then K. That's not right, said Jessica in a worried voice. It's supposed to be saying yes. I asked it again. Corion-san, please go back to the other world, she demanded. Again, the spirit said okay. It's supposed to go to yes and then stop at the red Tory gate, hissed Jessica, but it's not doing it. We tried to tell the spirit to return to its world, but it was no use. It just kept spelling out, okay. Did you get home? Okay. Did you really go home? Okay. Please go away. Okay. No matter what we said, it just wouldn't leave. The movement of the two letters got faster and faster, and eventually the silver coin was flying back and forth between the letters at a dizzying speed. It was all we could do to keep our fingers on the coin. We were all terrified. It was if the spirit was out of control, taking over the board and the coin, and there was nothing we could do about it. We sat over watching in horror as the silver coin moved back and forth. Okay. All four of us started to freak out. Margaret and Sophie began to cry, and Jessica, wide-eyed, had tears in her eyes. My heart was pounding so fast I thought I could leap out of my body. I can't take it anymore. We looked at Jessica. All right, shouted, taking control of the situation. Here's what we're going to do. We're all going to take our fingers off at the same time. We all immediately agreed. All right, on the count of three, she said, 1, 2, 3. All the girls lifted off their fingers off the coin at the same time. All except me. I don't know why, but for some reason my finger was stuck to the silver coin and I could not let go. The coin was continuing to slide back and forth at dizzying speeds. I was terrified and I couldn't think. I burst into tears, screaming, "What's happening? Help me!" over and over again. It was the scariest thing that ever happened to me, and today I'm not sure if I fully recovered. Or fully okay. God, believe that's a creepy story. Citizen Z, what's going on? Until he grabs your wife's butt and tries to give her a kiss. What? Don't say that guy's name. You don't want that guy around here. Hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. $18 people in the house. 19. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Get back here. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. There was a young boy who lived with his parents in a small, run-down apartment. Pull screen this so I could read it. They lived in a bad part of the city, and there was a lot of crime in their area. Their apartment was on the ground floor, and their apartment was in badly need of repair. Some of the windows were cracked and broken. The floors were never locked properly. The boys often had problems sleeping because all they could hear is noise from the street. They begged their parents. Oh, wait, no, I already read this story. Let's find another one. A few months ago, my friend Coco and I think that's how you say it. And I went to a girl's house for a sleepover. I didn't know the girls very well. Her name was Emmy, and she was a friend of Kyoko's. They went to the same school when they were friends. Emmy was a strange girl. She was quiet and seldom and didn't say much at all. Her parents were out for the night and were left alone in the house. We got into our pajamas and sat around telling ghost stories. The problem was we didn't know very many of them, and the ones that we knew were kind of lame. All of a sudden, Emmy perked up. Oh, I know a good website, she said. She opened up her laptop and clicked on one of the bookmarks and gathered all around her to look at the website. It had ghost stories from all over the world, including Japan. Emmy scrolled down through the page and we stared at the monitor. Kyoko pointed to one of the stories. What's this one? For a moment, Emmy's face turned into a frown. You're not supposed to read that one. It's dangerous. The whole website is creepy. Is this supposed to be for kids? Said Kyoko. No, replied in a serious tone. Definitely not for kids. Some of the stories and games are dangerous, like this one. She clicked on the link for one of the stories. It seemed strange. There was a picture of a woman in dark hair, but her face was disturbing and made me sick to look at it. The text said the person who wrote this story is not human. You're not supposed to listen to the story, Emmy. So let's not listen, replied Kyoko. Yeah, let's just go to bed. I felt a strange feeling about the website. And I mean, where did they get all these weird stories from? And why do they collect them? And who would even make a website like this? It was very unsettling about there was something unsettling about the whole thing. Emmy didn't take notice of us. She pressed play on the video and we heard the start of the story. As soon as we heard the weird voice, it freaked me out. But I put my hands over my ears and left the room. Kyoko followed me. We waited in the bedroom until it was over, and I can't remember what the story was about, but I do recall that it was very short, and it seemed like a poem more than a story, but it didn't rhyme. When we got back in, Emmy had a strange look on her face. See, nothing happened, she said. Not long after that, we decided to go to bed. We were very sleepy, and we got into bed and lay down on the futon. We turned out the lights and went to sleep. I always have trouble sleeping, and I feel like somebody else when I stay in somebody else's house. And in the middle of the night, I was awoken to a strange sound. And after a minute or so, I realized it was Emmy. She was making small noises in her sleep, like. It was as if she was having a bad dream, and I shook her to wake her up. Maybe Emmy shouldn't have read that story before she went to bed, she mumbled. She tried to go back to sleep, but the moans got louder, and she went to sleep. Then she started to talk in her sleep. How'd you find me? Nudged Kyoko. We were both awake listening to her. How did you know? She cried. I don't think, I do not think sleep talking very tone, sorry. I did not think sleep talking very tone that was clearly. I said, you're facing over there still, but I know that Kana happened already. It's Kyoko. Must have been a weird nightmare. And just as she said that, Emmy got out of bed. The way she moved was jerky and like a puppet. When I saw that, a chill ran down my spine. Emmy had turned her back to us and her head was hanging low. Her hair was black and covering her face, and just stood there, facing the bed, moaning softly. Slowly, she began to turn around. Just then, Kyoko flew into a panic. That's not Emmy, she hissed. Emmy was turning slowly. Kyoko was staring at Emmy, her eyes wide open with fright. I don't want to look. I want to turn away. I can't, but I couldn't turn away. I was trembling uncontrollably. In the dim light, I could make out Emmy's face as she turned. It was Emmy's face, but somehow it wasn't. Her face was pale and her eyes bugged out abnormally. Her mouth was distorted and twisted into an evil grimace. It wasn't Emmy, but if it was, her face had been mixed with the face of somebody else, as if it was pretending to be Emmy. In the voice that didn't sound human, she whispered, I want to know how. I don't remember what happened after that. I think Kyoko and I passed out. When we woke up in the morning, Kyoko was lying out on the futon beside me. But in the bed, there was a discarded pair of pajamas, and there was no sign of Emmy anywhere. We went downstairs, but the whole house was empty. It really freaked me out. And the events of that night were fresh in our minds, and we grabbed our bags and left as soon as we could. We tried to call Emmy on her mobile, but it was out of range. And when we tried again that afternoon, it we tried again in the afternoon, but it was always out of range. Later that evening, we called her home number, and the mom answered. She said she didn't know where Emmy was either, and Kyoko and I became more and more scared. We texted all of our friends, but none of them had heard from her, like she dropped off the face of the earth. Emmy's parents went to the police to file a missing persons report. They started to search for Emmy. Most people thought she had run away from home. Nobody could find trace of her. When the police came to question myself and Kyoko, there wasn't much we could tell them, but we both knew Emmy didn't run away from home. One day, Kyoko came over to my house, and we got on the laptop and searched the internet for Emmy's website. Searched the scary website Emmy had been reading. With trembling fingers, Kyoko clicked that link, and a notice came on the screen. The story had been removed. It read, "Do not try to find this scary story. It's too dangerous." We searched through the night, but we couldn't find it. Ever since then, I have trouble sleeping. I'm scared to wake up. I'm scared that when I wake up, I won't be here anymore. So, what did you guys think about that story? You guys liked it? Hey, how's it going, Mari? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Let's see. We got 142 likes on the stream so far. Thank you guys. Let's see. Woohoo, we got 36 likes so far. Thank you guys. It's a little bit smaller of a stream. I tried to send out the invite as much as I could. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. It is pretty late at night, and I'm sure there's quite a few people still live streaming this time in the evening. Do appreciate everybody for coming by. I do have to sign off here in a couple minutes because I gotta go to work early. But yeah, that's pretty much the stories that I have for tonight, and I'm gonna be signing off in about 5 minutes. Do appreciate everybody. I'm gonna try to find another channel to raid here. Let's see. You guys can go check them out. Don't know who else is live right now. You know, I've never rated his channel, and I wonder if he's live still. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so it doesn't look like he's live right now. Okay. Trying to find. No, this guy is actually a pretty big YouTuber. All right, so this guy is a pretty well-known gamer. And I just like kind of recently started supporting him. I really like his content, so I'm gonna thank you, John. Had a great night listening to you is always a highlight of my night. Oh, thank you so much. I'm gonna grab his link here. His name is Player One, the real Player One, or the real P1. So I'm gonna copy his link here and then put in hashtag HSFL raid. Tell him I sent you, and I'll see you over there. All right, guys. So kind of want to listen to his reaction if he's.
What's his watching? We got 10 people watching. What's good, bro?
Bro, let's get a shit out of me.
What?
I just got 2 tingles right in front of me. And they were charging at me.
He's got about 20,000 subscribers. So let's go help him. Maybe try to get him to that 20K.
Oh, snap. We got a raid. Oh, snap. Can you Thank you, bro.
Guys, go check him out.
Thank you guys so much for that.
Yeah, I know Ghost Mafia.
HSFL. Paranormal. Big shout out to you, man. Thank you so much for the love, man. I appreciate that. The sharpshooter, Tammy, Melanie, Mary Neal, Sydney Downs.
Come on, guys, go check him out. I want everybody to go over there, put in hashtag HSFL raid.
Hey, I'm gonna need somebody that can charge with me.
Oh, snap. Oh, what? Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Come on, we still have 13 people watching, and I'll see you over there. chat with you guys for a couple of minutes. But I really appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Much love and light, guys. And remember to always keep it spooky, my friends. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next week.